when I do this side right here, because I got to put the Anderson connector on this side, I am going to make sure the end of it is where I need it to be. But to get these connectors out, you don't pull up on the connector itself. You got to try to push down. It's going to be hard because it took me a while to get it out. Push down on the clip on the inside, and it's easier with wires to pull out. You push down on the clip on the inside, and then they come. What's going on, everybody? Rob here, aka Trev2323. Today I'm going to talk about these Anderson connectors. Look at these big honkers right here. These are Anderson connectors, and they're for 2 to 4 gauge wire. I'm doing this because I'm running a 48 volt battery into a solar inverter. That's a 48 volt inverter that does 3,000 power, 48 volt 3K, okay? My battery I'm making, I'm hooking up this BMS. It's a battery management system. If you're playing with lithium ion, do not mess around. Get yourself a good BMS. You cannot overcharge lithium ion batteries or they will catch fire. So get yourself a good battery management system, a good BMS. They got some cheaper ones that are just a circuit board that you solder onto, but this is a really good name brand company, the Daily one. This is 14S because I got 14 batteries in series, 48 volts, handle discharge current up to 100 amps and charge current up to 50 amps. But through these Anderson connectors, it is recommended that I run 4 gauge wire. So I kind of almost skimped out, but I didn't. These are actually, it was cheaper to order these 4 gauge battery cables. Now they say 300 amps on these battery cables, but that's for jumping a car. They're not 300 amps continuous. Now through all my cross-referencing and research, even though this is a 100 amp output, 100 amp discharge, 4 gauge, this is copper clad aluminum. Copper clad aluminum, that means this is aluminum wire, but it's wrapped in copper, like it's dipped in copper, I would venture to say. Okay, so this is a copper clad aluminum wire, and this right here, the rated amps on this copper clad, this one right here is a 75 amp continuous. 75 amp continuous, 300 amp for short term. So if you're running some copper clad aluminum, you're running some wire like this, you got to find out if it's copper, the 4 gauge copper. I'm not a professional, this is just what I found through some research. The copper ones are only rated, 4 gauge copper says for 75 amp, and the 95 amp. The copper, the solid copper is 95 amp, and the copper clad aluminum is 75 amp. So actually I just ordered a 70 amp breaker because I don't want to go above what this is, and if the breaker keeps tripping or whatever, then I got to regroup. But I'm going to cut these right here because I got to get these into these Anderson connectors. And this is going to be, I have my 48 volt battery, you'll see it if you're following my channel, you've probably seen it already, but my 48 volt battery is in a cooler. So I have it in a cooler because it is a lithium ion chem pack. Well, let me see if these unclip somehow. No, these aren't good. Okay, they're my lithium ion. They're lithium ion chem packs, and they are in a cooler because you don't want them to be to get damaged. Because another thing, lithium ion batteries cannot be overcharged, and lithium ion batteries cannot be damaged or punctured. So since they were just chem packs, I went ahead and I put them in a cooler, and I vented the cooler. So then this way, I vented the cooler so nothing can damage or hit them or fall on them, or if something falls on them, if something breaks that lithium ion pouch, it could short out, or if it gets oxygen, if the pouch gets oxygen, it could set fire. Look up lithium ion fires, and then you will realize how dangerous lithium ion can be if it's not handled properly. I seen a guy not put a battery management system and was charging like 6,000 batteries, and lithium ion is like a runaway train. When it starts to ignite, you're not going to stop it. You just got to manage the fire until it burns out. And normally with all the smoke, you get the big boys with the big hoses coming out, and because it's just a big fire. So these right here are 4 gauge. I don't know how they're going to get a 2 gauge in there. So I'm just trying to, what I'm going to do with these before I put them in there is, these were a nightmare to unsnap from there, is this is my CRKT minimalist survival knife. I always have this with me. I always have this on my belt, and I always keep it sharp. So this is cutting through this like butter. All right. There's the end of that right there. And that could go right into there. Yeah, it'll fit a 2-gauge wire. I could actually fit more in there. But it goes perfect, but I gotta leave some room because I gotta solder it in there. I'm gonna solder it in there. So I'm gonna cut this further back to expose some so I can solder it. And then I don't got 4-gauge shrink tools. Maybe I'll pick some 4-gauge shrink tools up tonight because there's a lot of room in there to get to. So I'm gonna put that all in there, and on all these connections, I'm gonna solder them. Instead of using my soldering iron, I just use my what is it? Not butane, not propane. Ooh, I can't think of the name of it right now. We'll go down there and see. I'll show you how to do one of them. Alright. See, now that's all the way in, and it has a little bit left over where I could go ahead and get the solder in there. So let's go down there. Alright, this is where my 48-volt lithium-ion battery is right here. That's 14 batteries in series. The BMS is already hooked up. This is where the positive and negative is going to be. So right now, I got these little ones on here to remember which one's the positive and which one's the negative. They're going to actually come up, and they're probably going to come to right here in the front, or on the side, probably the side right here. And then the Anderson connector is going to become 2 wires is going to come through here. I'm going to have an Anderson connector coming out right here. But that's the battery pack itself, and there's vents on it. So there's I could get airflow within the battery. There's vents on it. So the BMS is more than likely going to sit right on top. And I'm going to put a piece of wood or some PVC in here so the battery don't move around a lot. I got to get something to put in there so the battery don't move around a lot. So that's my 48-volt battery right there in a Family Dollar cooler so it won't get damaged. And then this right here is actually going to be strapped to a dolly. So let's go over here now. Alright, so it's MAP gas that I'm using. There's my my solder. I put flux on here already. So there is flux on here. And see, there's a certain way that you want these to match up when you put them on. If you got your wires side by side, you want them to be facing the same way so you don't gotta twist the wire. Alright, I don't know if you see this right here, but I got it facing upward because I'm gonna try to do it like copper pipe. If you heat the top, I'm gonna heat the top up here first. And like I said, you want these kind of the same way because you're going to put them in the Anderson connector. Alright, like I said, you want them to face the same way. See this little hook? You want them to be the same way when you're soldering them on. Don't forget. Alright, I didn't cool that one down fast enough. That's why that melted a little bit. But after they're soldered on, go ahead and run them under water to cool them down. Because the cable itself will get warm. So after you get that soldered on, you run them into water real fast because the cable itself started getting warm. So I ran them under water to stop the cable from melting, like this one melted a little bit. Here they are soldered on right here. They're facing the same way. So when you put them in your connector, make sure the black is the black and the red is the red, and they have negative and positive marked on the Anderson connector. See, the good thing is that these are gonna, that's funny because it's the opposite of how I soldered them on. I guess I should have checked that first because this is the hot and the negative. So if I would have twisted these the other way, then they would have been opposite that way. But either way, this wire is getting cut because this is going into the cooler. All right, so the negative And if you look in the Anderson connector right here, there's little things on the bottom right here. Look, these are like little clips. And it's kind of hard because, let me see if I got a screwdriver here. To get these out, you got to finagle that clip down. Finagle that clip down so these can pop out the back. So this is the positive. So you look for which one has the positive. And then you push it in and it'll clip down. See, it's going through right there. Clipped in place. This one right here. Going through right there. Clipped in place. So now this is my Anderson connector. There are screws on it, but I'm not gonna I could tear this apart some more, but I'm not gonna finish it right now because I don't know the exact length that I need yet. So this right here is gonna go into the cooler, and from the cooler, when it gets into the cooler, I got these right here I have to solder on the other end. So these are 3/8 inch connectors. So these will go to the into the cooler, and then this is what's going to be sticking out the cooler. And then I probably will put zip ties or put electrical tape to hold this together after it's actually sticking in the cooler. The other side, when I do this side right here, because I got to put the Anderson connector on this side, I am going to make sure the end of it is where I need it to be. But to get these connectors out, you don't pull up on the connector itself. You got to try to push down. It's going to be hard because it took me a while to get it out. Push down on the clip on the inside, and it's easier with wires to pull out. You push down on the clip on the inside, and then they come right out. See, this one right here, the other side, you push down on the clip. No, this one's going to be the hard one. Let me get the other side of the clip. Push down on that clip, and then they come out. That's how you get them out. It was a nightmare for me trying to get these things out. Right out. See, this one right here, the other side, you push down on the clip. No, this one's going to be the hard one. Let me get the other side of the clip. Push down on that clip, and then they come out. That's how you get them out. It was a nightmare for me trying to get these things out. All right, then they're in right there. So that's connecting the Anderson connector. And like I says, this 4-gauge copper, 4-gauge copper clad aluminum has 75 amp continuous use. For 48 volts, it's a 75 amp continuous use. So if it was all copper, it'll be if it were all copper, it'd be 95 amp continuous use. Okay, so I see a lot of people running this 4-gauge wire, and then they have 200 amp fuses on them. So this right here says they got a discharge rate of 100 amps, But for what I'm using it, I don't even think I'm gonna need to discharge that much. I'm not pulling like that much power. I've been using that kilowatt hour, and my fish tanks use a lot of electricity. My fish tanks, all 5 of them, we're pulling like 1200 watts when all 5 were on at the same time with the freezer. But other than that, this is the biggest power draw. The refrigerator, man, wasn't even the refrigerator. I think the most it pulls like 400 watts, the basement refrigerator. It didn't use all 750 watts. It was pretty crazy, but it rarely gets opened. So I'm doing my Keurig now. Believe it or not, my Keurig heating up for 3 minutes used 1300 watts, more than 4 fish tanks and a deep freezer that Keurig used to heat up. Now here's the crazy thing. It heats up once for 3 minutes, and then it pours you your coffee, and it goes down to like 200 watts, 300 watts. But when it finishes pouring your coffee, it automatically fills up and uses 1300 watts again for 3 minutes. But then when you leave it idles at like 4 watts. But then it keeps the water warm all day, so it goes up to 300-400 watts for a while, then goes back down to 4, go to 300. So I would, to tell you the truth, as little as I use coffee, and as much power as that uses, it'd be so much cheaper if I just put my coffee cup on the stove again. All right, well, either way, that's how to put on the Anderson connector. And this is going to my 48 volt battery. So if you're interested in 48 volt batteries, follow me, because I'm going to put the BMS on probably tomorrow. Talk to you later. All right, horse after the cart. I was rushing to shoot this video about these Anderson connectors, and thinking about it now, I got to pick up this 60-pound battery to put these connectors in after they're drilled through and put in. So I had to leave a lot of slack to lift the battery out and in. But if I were to do this again and I was not going to move that battery, I would have connected these to the battery first, cut the length I needed and put this way through, and then put the Anderson connectors. But I'm gonna have to take the battery out now and put these in. But another thing on these, since the battery is so close and the little on the LG Chems, when you've got them in series, it's so close together, these are gonna be electrical taped all the way up to here. See, I've always used electrical. Laugh with me if you will. I know it's kind of dark where you can't see it yet. So here's my battery right here. This is the NMC connector sticking out the side of the battery. We'll get some more views down the road. This is without the BMS hook, so I still got one more connection in here. It's going to be mounted to this dolly, but this BMS is going to be connected on this side. All right, so I got to figure out, well, maybe it's going to have to be connected on this side then. Okay, let me see. But it has to be connected in some sort of way over here, because I know the bottom cords ain't gonna reach, so it is gonna have to go somewhere right here. Okay, but it's not connected yet. But this black is gonna have to be cut. This black is gonna have to be cut, and I'm gonna have to put another connector on it, because the BMS goes to the battery. This one right here goes directly from the battery, and then this one right here goes on the battery out. This BMS is in between the negative to your power supply, but it's not connected yet. But these wires are going to have to turn or twist, because it is going to have to be connected right in here. So I am going to need some, what is it, maybe 3/8 inch connectors, because I got to split this one still, put a connector on it so it could go to here. And then this is the power, the negative power out, that'll go going out to the Growatt, and this right here goes to the battery. All right, so it's not done yet. We're not out the woods yet, but there it is right there. And here's the connector right here. All right, I'll see you in a bit in the next video. Bye-bye.